Hey parents, it's Toby coming to you on another Sunday. I didn't have any errands to run today, so I've just got my Angela Davis t-shirt on. Pardon the informality. But today I want to talk to you about topics that I hear in the news all the time. People talking about the activities that their kids are involved in. And it seems like sometimes our kids can be overtaxed with a lot of activities, and I've been guilty of that myself. So when my son was little, I always had the philosophy that if you keep them busy doing things, they don't have a lot of opportunity to get in trouble. So I signed him up for, the Pee Wee baseball or T-ball, and then baseball, basketball. Where we lived in Indiana was in a good location because we were right on the beach, so we could go to the beach or the zoo or the park. There were, the movie theaters. There was friends he could play with, and basketball games he could go to. When my brother was playing basketball, we would watch his games. But we also lived close to South Bend, so we could go over there. They had a minor league baseball team. We would go over and watch their games. And then Gary, we were close to Gary. They had I think it was called a CBA basketball team. We would go watch their games. And then we were always in Chicago, just a short train ride to Chicago. We could go over there to go to the museums, walk around, do shopping. We saw a couple of plays there. They found out where they were doing like the 3-on-3 basketball, and we could go over and watch those games. One of our biggest summer activities was going to Chicago for the Taste of Chicago, which is just tons of food and music. But we didn't really go over for the music so much. We just went over for the food. So we take an early train, get there like right when they started so we could beat the crowds, and then just basically eat nonstop. By the time things got really filled up and too congested where you couldn't move around, we were on our way walking around Michigan Avenue. We'd stop and get some Garrett's popcorn, and then on the train we would just like sit, and we were so stuffed and full, but it was like the best day ever, and we couldn't wait to go again next year. So I always tried to think of little things for us to do to keep him just occupied. But then we'd also have those slow days where we just lazed around and, read books or watched TV or just talk or went and visit my mom. So it wasn't always go, go, go. But I always worried that I didn't want to put too much activity on his plate. So during the regular school year, he had homework. So I didn't want to bog him down with a lot of after school activities. So in the summertime, I'd sign him up for baseball. And in the fall, I'd sign him up for basketball. So when he was and we did this for a number of years. I think he started T-ball when he was like 4 years old or something. And then he progressed until he was off the tee, and then it was just regular baseball. And then in the fall, signing him up for like the city basketball league. But we did that for a number of years, and it was kind of hectic for me because luckily I had a boss that was really, compassionate, and I could do a little bit of a flex schedule. And so I could take off to get him to practices for all of this stuff, and then make sure I was at all the games. And my cousin used to call me the suck up mom because I'd show up at the games with popsicles and, just little treats for the whole team. But it was fun. It was like, here's pizza, guys. It wasn't sucking up. It was just appreciating the fact that they were trying as hard as they were. And so so he did those things. My mom, once he got old enough to travel without he was potty trained, and she didn't have to worry about changing Pampers or that type of thing. He was old enough to travel with her, especially once he got to like 8, 9, 10. He would travel with her. He went with her to all the family reunions and sometimes on business trips. I remember she had a speaking engagement one time in Colorado, and she took him with her, and they had a great time together. So I did make an effort to keep him busy, but I incorporated it with what was happening with him in school and then just family obligations. I never wanted him to feel too overwhelmed with activities or force him to do things that I thought might be out of his best interest. And I remember, when he played t-ball for a number of years, and he was probably like 9 or 10, I think, maybe it was 10. When we were just having dinner and just chit chat, and I was like, oh, I have to sign you up for baseball again this week. I've got to, fill out the form and pay the dues, and we've got to get your equipment. And he's like, Mom, I really don't like baseball. And I said, you don't? Like, when did you not like baseball? I said, I've never liked baseball, but you sign me up every year. And I said, well, why didn't you say anything? He said, well, I didn't think I could say no. And so I've just been going every year, but I don't want to hurt your feelings or anything, but I don't like baseball. I don't want to play baseball this summer. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I don't know what other sport I want to do. I really don't have to do any sport over the summer. I just don't like baseball. And I said, well, go figure. I thought I had that part down, the baseball thing. And he doesn't even like the sport. So I stopped signing him up for baseball. And that was kind of a clue to me to just start getting more of his opinion about things, because I would just come home with like, hey, we've got tickets to go to see the Alvin Ailey dancers, or we've got tickets to go see where we live near Gary, and Gary gets a bad rep, but Gary has a very thriving theater guild and art world there. So we saw Jesus Christ Superstar, we saw Herbie Hancock there, and so I would just come home with these tickets and be like, hey, we're going. Or my mom would say, hey, I'm going to such and such, I want to take Randall, and I would be like, hey, your grandmother wants to take you to this family reunion or to go visit these relatives or something. And so after we had this conversation about him not liking baseball, I said, well, my bad. I'm just assuming that he's all in for this stuff that I'm having him doing, even though I thought I was spreading it out, even though I thought he's doing one sport in the summer, one sport in the fall, little trips on the weekends to Chicago or to see a game or something, or maybe a weekend with my mom doing something when he was older. I thought I was spreading it out so as not to overwhelm him. And I still was doing that. So once he alerted me that he did not like baseball at all, and he was only doing it because I was signing him up every year, then I was like, all right, well, from now on, we'll talk about these things first. I just won't assume that this is something that you're into. So after that, it became a thing where if something was happening, I would say, your grandmother wants to take you here, or I've got tickets to go here, or I thought it would be a good idea if we hopped on the train and did this, what do you think? And sometimes and then he started asking me, well, are you asking me if I want to go, or are you telling me that I have to go? And that worked out for us good too, that he started asking that question, because some things I would tell him, yes, you have to go. If it was a special event, like my mother, did a lot of speaking engagements and she was involved a lot in the community. So some of those things, it was, yes, you have to go. But if it was just, do you want to go hang out at this person's house, or they're having a barbecue, do you want to go here? And it was like, no, you don't have to go. So then we both would stay home. So I think once he felt comfortable expressing himself to me about what he liked or didn't like, and it was okay for him to ask that question, are you telling me that I have to go? Or are you asking me if I want to go? Then I really opened up a completely different dialogue for us. And I learned to find more things that he was really into that we could do together, or he can do separately as he got older, that maybe I wasn't into. And so we, from a young age, we always had good communication. But then that period, once the light bulb clicked on for me that when he told me he never liked baseball, then that was a good signal for me to start not to treat him, he wasn't an adult, he wasn't making decisions, but to incorporate, what he really wanted to do into our planning. And I remember when we relocated to where we live now. And, I met people through work, and he hadn't started school yet. He was, had the whole summer just kind of, while I was at work talking to people every day, he was at home. So I started getting the Sunday paper, and every Sunday I would go through to see what events were happening for that following week. And we would go through it together and look at, if there was like a fair or something, or a concert. And we actually came across an advert for a gun show. I don't like guns. I'm not really never thought of owning a gun. I still don't want to own a gun, but we talked about it and we thought it would be something fun to do, because he has kind of talked about maybe one day buying a gun, even though he hasn't yet. And so now every year we still make our mother-son pilgrimage to the gun show, and the only thing we walk out of there with are t-shirts. We've got some great t-shirts at the gun show. Or like, I think I'm a survivalist, so I got a latrine shovel, which I don't know why I have it. He laughs at me now because I have this latrine shovel and I don't know what to do with it. But when you're at the gun show, you buy gun show stuff, I guess. So I've got a latrine shovel. You never know. I might have to use it one day. But so we found that to do. That was an activity that we found together through looking through the newspaper. And now I think it's something, the last few years our schedules haven't matched. So we didn't go last year, but we're going to go this year. But even if he didn't go with me, that's something he's still into, that he talks about with his friends, and he could go with his friends. I don't have to be with him. But so I think I'm getting off my train of thought though, but the original theme was, like, how much activity is too much activity for your kid? Do they have to be in every after school event, every sport, every play date, every program? Do you have to take them to all of that? Do they really want to go to all of that? I found out that my son didn't like everything I was signing him up for and that I was engaging him in. And then he found the comfort level to talk to me about that and understood that he's had some veto abilities in those things. And it didn't, like I said, it wasn't every situation was, I don't want to go, or do I have to go, or and it wasn't me saying every time, get dressed, we're going here. Usually, our plans were usually made in advance. The only time we had a spur of the moment situation where someone called us and said, hey, I've got 2 tickets to see the Bulls play tonight, and we were both at home. It was like a Saturday night. He was in his PJs and I were in mine by like 6 o'clock, and the game started at 8. And we got dressed lickety split and made it over to Chicago and went to that game and had a ball. So that was a spur of the moment thing, but usually it was something that we talked about in advance. Do you want to go here this weekend? And because I don't like last minute planning situations, and now I find that he doesn't either. He likes it, to know what he's going to be doing and involved with. So it's and a lot of parents are okay, and a lot of kids are okay with them having a lot of activities. I don't think that I signed my son up for too many, but we talked about it a lot. Once I found out that his interests weren't necessarily my interests, we talked about it a lot. And one funny thing that occurred from him not talking to me about something and me kind of getting caught off guard when he was a freshman in high school. He's always been tall. He's tall, but at that time he was tall and wide. Now he's kind of tall and lean. And so I get a call in the evening, like 7, 8 o'clock, from the football coach at the high school saying that they've been talking to Randall about going out for football, and he keeps saying no. And they, knew it was because I was concerned about him being safe, and they wanted to assure me that he would be safe, and that, they would look out for his best interests and make sure his schoolwork didn't suffer. And I said, okay, well, let me talk to him about this and get back to you. And so I called him in. I was like, the football coach just called me. He's like, are you kidding? I said, well, what's going on? He said, they've been bugging me since school started to go out for football, and I keep telling them no. And in our household, we only watch basketball. So he didn't go like, and now he hangs out with his friends and they watch football, but at that time we only watched basketball and wrestling, The Rock, WWE. And so I didn't know anything about football, and he didn't really that much. He probably talked to his friends about it at school or something, but at home it just wasn't our thing. And so I said, well, why are they calling me? He said, well, because they keep asking me to go out. I don't like football. I don't know anything about football. I don't want to play football. So I just told him you wouldn't let me go out. And I said, okay, so you throw me under the bus? He said, yeah. And I said, well, do you want to go out for football? He said, Mom, I don't want to go out for football. And I said, well, if you did, I would be okay with it. Like, don't let your decision not to go out is because you think I'm going to be fearing for your safety, or I wouldn't want you to do it. He said, Mom, I'm being honest. I don't want to go out for football. I said, okay, well, just tell him your mom won't let you go out for football. And that was that. I didn't try to force him. And I said, do you need me to call a coach back? He said, no, I'll talk to him at school tomorrow. That was the end of it. So I probably, if I had probably told him that I wanted to go in and talk to the coach, and I think you should at least try, he would have begrudgingly done that. But at this point, we had already had these earlier conversations about things he liked and didn't like, and I wasn't going to push him on that. And I didn't mind the coach thinking it was my decision that he didn't go out for football. I didn't really care about that part. So I guess just to, to parents that do, are thinking about having your kids in activities, or maybe they are already, the only advice I guess I'm trying to get across from this is to talk to your kids about it. When they're younger, they might not be able to articulate their needs and wants and their interests, but as they get a little older, like my son was when he was like 10, when he sat down and we talked about the baseball situation, then you want to start listening to them, because sometimes we see ourselves through our kids, and we want to see them excel in ways that we think they should, or maybe that we didn't, and we sometimes even live vicariously through them. I know I have done on many occasions, live vicariously through my son. I get more excited about something that he does, and he calls me on that. He'll say, Mom, calm down. And so even with the videos, he stopped by here earlier today to check on me because I wasn't feeling well, and I said, hey, do you want to stick around when I do my video? He said, no, Mom, that's your thing, because I can see you now turning the camera over at me saying, look who's here, look who's here. And I said, okay, you're right. And so, he scurried out of here. But I guess, to try to talk to your kids about what they really want. Is this something that they're really into, or is it something that you're more into because there's an expectation that you think is out there that you should be doing this as a parent? It makes you a good parent to sign them up for these sports and activities, and maybe they really don't want to. So I guess that's the takeaway that I learned from the activities I had my son in, and things we did together, and then the conversations we had later as he grew older and became to be more comfortable with himself and his own abilities and what he was interested in doing, and able to articulate that back to me so that I understood his boundaries, because that's basically what it's all about. Is he had boundaries, and if at certain occasions I was overstepping my boundaries, and so we have grown into still talking about things, even as an adult now. We just have a great communication with each other about things, and so I appreciate the fact that he felt comfortable enough to tell me, slow your roll. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that. I do see that I got a couple of new followers, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you have any comments, please leave those below. Share with your friends. If you are new to the video, what I'm doing here is just talking about mainly single parenting, but parenting in general, kind of some things that I experienced that might help other parents. and just to express that as a single parent, that we are more than society says that we should be as a single parent, and society says that our children should be, and how they might turn out as being raised by single parents. And we're more than the statistics that are subscribed to us that say we only fit in these small boxes and categories. So that's the point of the videos, that it might help someone break out of that box that you've been defined by. And again, I appreciate you watching today. I'll try to be on a Thursday again with another throwback story. And of course, I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks. Have a good week. Bye.